Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com. And a very special thank you to our Patreon subscribers.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another horror indie author interview with Radar again.
Hey, thanks for having me on again. I always appreciate it.
Of course, you are always welcome here, always. Radar has a new release coming out, like very, very soon. And I not only did I get an early copy, I'm not going to read it because it's personal and it's emotional and I'll cry, but I also got a very sweet note with it about support and being a part of the community and stuff. But it was a very sweet little surprise. You literally sent this to me like literally the couple of days before I moved. Like I got it like right before I moved.
Yeah, I literally was taking it to the post office and I set it down and I went, fuck, Angel's moving next week. And I was like, what's the fastest you can deliver a package?
Oh, well, I had access to the house until the end of the month, so I could have gone back. But it was just funny because it was genuinely, it came at the most perfect time because moving was so stressful and I had to do so much of it on my own. And so it was like, I was feeling a little like overwhelmed and defeated. And then I get lists like, not only did I get this cool little book that I didn't know anything, I didn't know it was coming. And then I got the note on top of it and it was like the spirit lifting that I needed. So it was very sweet. Thank you.
Well, I do mean every word of it too. So
I know it's up. I've got it saved away with my like signed books and it'll go back in this once we're done talking about it. It'll go with it. It'll go inside it. But right now it's like with all my other like stuff like that I have. But yeah, so the Steve was supposed to be here. A tree almost fell in his house and he has no power. So he is not going to be able to join. But the book we are talking about tonight is Drowning in the Drink.
Ooh.
And this, I didn't know anything about this project. I didn't even know you were working on this, I don't think, because I was so focused on the days of horror. Or a year spent in horror. Like I didn't think about I didn't know anything about this. So, before we jump into like talking about the book, Steve did send me a little note. He wanted me to play since he couldn't be here. So I'm going to play that for you to hear first.
Ooh, okay.
Let me know if you can't hear it, but it should be okay.
Hey Radar, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it to the interview. A damn tree fell and took out the power. It's a real pain in the ass, but I am so proud of your book. I absolutely loved it. As a therapist, I think it nailed a lot of the intense and often unthought of symptoms in alcoholism. And I thought the characters were beautifully written. I appreciated the dynamic between our two leads and, him and his mother and him and his girlfriend. I just thought those dynamics were fantastic in the way that you articulated and painted generational addiction through the a metaphor of this sort of outside parasite, if you will. So anyway, fantastic job. I'm so proud of you. And I can't wait to read the next one.
Steve. He's the real MVP. He took time out of nearly dying from a tree to send that. I appreciate that, Steve.
I think getting the book meant a lot I know it did. It meant a lot to him. And he was, I already knew that he, how he sort of felt about the book in general. So I know it was important for you to know how he felt about it. So I'm glad he was able to send a note and I was able to figure out how to upload it because God knows I don't do technology. So,
battle.
Yeah. So I'll read the back. It says the black gunk has taken over. Haley has been infected by a strange substance that has crawled inside her head. It's filled her mind with voices, driving her to end it all. The only thing that seems to keep the voices at bay is alcohol. There's no other choice for her. She has to drink. It's a terrible situation with no way to escape. Only one question remains for Haley. What will kill her first? Thirst or first?
First.
Sorry. I've got
You're
a
good.
band, everyone. I'm not dumb. It's hard to say. I was so close to finishing it without needing help though. First, the voices or the drink. And then I also wanted to read your dedication in this because I thought this was like super. Also, I did not read the back going into this.
Oh, you didn't? You just read it fine.
Because my heart, but I didn't. But when I read it, so the dedication is for all those battling addiction, we see you, you are not alone. And I think that was short but beautiful and incredibly touching for a dedication, especially considering the stuff that this book kind of tackles.
And I don't do dedications often. It would be too long, but because I am really thankful for everyone who's helped me. But I feel like that one was perfect for what this is. So
yeah. Especially given, you never know who's going to pick it up. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, and I will say, and I will do I'm not going to harp on and on about this because I did this when I talked to Laurel about Day of the Door. But, my biological mother was an addict and I have siblings that are alcoholics, and I've been around all versions of it and seen what it does to them and their families and their children. And so it definitely hit a very, very specific note for me reading it. Which I don't think is easy to do. I don't think writing content like this and making it emotional is necessarily easy. So gold star for that for sure. Because I thought that was like, there were parts where I was like, oh, this is making me feel for real things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where's my goofy friend Radar in this dark and sad book?
None of that. I had to switch it up.
No, it's really well done, especially because it also covers grief and not just addiction and generational addiction and things like that. It covers grief too. So, I guess we'll start with the basics, right? So I think the name probably speaks for itself, but why this topic? Why this story?
Yeah. So, I mean, I like you, unfortunately, and millions of people across the world. I've been close with a lot of alcoholics. Friends, family, and I've seen some people pull through it, and I've seen some not so much. So that was, that's something to help inspire it. But the real catalyst was Sad Story Time, Christmas of 2022, not on Christmas, but the week before Christmas, like 4 or 5 days. My grandma found my aunt, and she had finally succumbed to years of alcohol abuse. And really brutal. Like my cousin lives with my parents now, and he has for years, because my aunt reached that point where they went to her and said, you have to sign custody of him.
You
over
can't
to
do
us.
Yeah.
It was like the 4th or 5th time she showed up to school to pick him up drunk, and they went, you can't keep doing this. And so, but yeah, and it was really brutal to have that happen, because it was surreal. That moment was surreal too, because my grandma, her mom found her, so that's brutal.
Her child. Yeah.
And then the police, she called the police, which is what you're supposed to do. The police came and were like, hey, just in case, you can't go in, you can't touch anything, so you'll have to stay out here and wait for the coroner to come to pick up the body.
Which can take forever, hours and hours sometimes.
It did. So it was like an hour and a half. And thankfully I got over there after 15 or 20 minutes, because my mom had to come.
They're local to you.
Yeah, they are local to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it was like me and my wife going over there just to keep her company in the middle of fucking December. So it was super cold out there.
Yeah.
And it was such a weird moment. I never got to see her body. Never got to say goodbye to her physical form, because the coroner wheeled her out in a bag, and they're like, yeah, we're not opening that for you. And then she got cremated. So done deal. But so that was kind of like, okay, well, I can't say goodbye to that in that aspect. But but afterwards, I started going, trying to go, how am I going to process this? How am I going to get through this? And so this kind of just spilled out as my release valve for it, is this book. And so that's where that comes from, to make a long story short.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I think I could have guessed it came from something close to home simply because of the emotions that are kind of broken down in this. From, the story starts, we get Haley for a while, and then there's other characters that kind of are a part of the story as well. We won't do spoilers or anything because we want people to go get the book, but there's things of like conversations, right? Or things that are said that I've heard before, like in real life, and you're just like, ugh. Like, it's like, it's just, I love that Steve included. I always love when Steve talks about things from a therapist perspective, because I think it's a testament to like how well something is done. If he is a therapist, is like, yeah, this was done really well, because, sometimes, especially in horror, usually with like movies and bigger production companies, themes like this are not handled appropriately, and they're not handled well at all. And so but in this, you get the story of, this single mom who, is really struggling with this thing that's out of her control. And and again, I went into this blind, like I didn't know anything.
Really, so really bad to go into blind.
Yeah, well, and I mean, obviously, like I said, the title, I think, says a lot, but I don't think it prepares you necessarily for the first chapter, okay? Because I will tell you, the thing that got me the most in this, aside from like some of the emotional stuff and the situations that come up, is the chapter titles, because they are these definitive timelines of events, right? So you're reading the first chapter as it is or whatever, but then you see the title of the second chapter and you're like, son of a bitch. Like, and I won't say too much because this is a spoiler. There's another part in the book where it goes to another section, and the chapter is like starting, like the chapter title is such and such since blah, blah, blah. And I was like, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just full of just like angst and dread about it. Cause you're like, we just went through this, like, oh my God, why is it anyway? But,
and you can thank Tasha for that, because
for
she
the
did the edits
titles?
on, yeah. She was like, you know what you should do? And she was like, say something in the titles to show the passage of time. Because
it's brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. So thank you, Tasha.
yeah. Tasha comes out with some crazy good stuff. But yeah, no, it really did, because I think it has you going into the next chapter with feelings already.
Yeah, like just the setup.
Because then you're just like, especially those very specific ones, like the title for the second chapter, and then the title about midway through the book, or not quite midway through the book. It's like, no, like it just sets you up for feeling things, so that you go into it going, all right, just lay it on me, like
what's
ready
happening?
for it.
Yeah, and it's and Tasha, that was a brilliant idea on Tasha's part, but I really think that once I added those in, I was like, oh, this takes it to another sort of level, just because you could have those titles could be missing, and you could think that this maybe takes place over a couple months potentially.
Yeah, if you don't have that record of like, it's the same thing when you're watching a movie, and if they don't put up like, oh, this is 5 years later, then you're like, all right, like you're confused,
Yeah.
I did want to talk about that cover briefly. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to give a shout out for that and say, like, this is very like visual representation of what happens when you're like consumed, right?
Yeah, and I got a shout out to Matt Wildsane. I don't know if I'm saying that correct. I'm sorry, Matt. But Matt, he did the cover for this. His book, The Vast, just came out a few months ago, and his tackles kind of depression and stuff like that. That's a book that other people should go and pick up too.
He's going to come on and talk about that one, but we had to reschedule because of my move, so it's coming up soon.
Okay. Yeah, so for now, from me, go buy the book. But yeah, he did the cover for this, and I wasn't expecting the color scheme he came up with, but I think it just makes it pop so much more. And
it's the color of alcohol, right?
Is it? I guess so. I mean,
It's like, it reminds me of like beer or dark liquors.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Now that
Yeah.
why didn't I see that
And
before?
the yellow is the bubbles coming up from a beer that's just been poured. Yeah.
You know, see, that's even more genius. I was like, the yellow really makes it pop. That's incredible. So I'm not smart enough to even make that connection.
Yeah, that's what it makes me think of. He looks like he's literally drowning in a beer. Like that's what it looks like.
And I really like the arm that's kind of there. It looks kind of surreal. Like it's not a part of him. Like maybe there's other people in here.
I didn't even realize that was an arm.
Pow. Yeah.
Well,
so
now I like it even more.
There you go.
Yeah, it's got like an eerie, like kind of look to it.
Yeah, and the gunk is like just there enough. You know, it's just hanging there. And it's just like what, the characters in the book kind of go through, because the gunk is there. It's prevalent for them, but anyone else looking in on it
would have no idea.
No idea. Would never notice it.
Yeah, there's more of it on the back.
Yeah, look at that. Oozing out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did a good job on the cover, and it really feels like, what the book is about. It tells you.
Yeah.
Title and cover really work well together. So I really appreciate Matt for doing that.
Yeah.
Shout out to my man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's great for this story. I totally agree. I cannot believe I didn't realize that was an arm. You know what I will blame? I will blame this gray thing again, because sometimes it takes my focal point to the bottom half of the book.
That's fair. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I treasure the ones that say this. They have a special place on my bookshelf. I'm not joking. Early readers of books like this that I get have a special place on my stuff downstairs, because I treasure early arcs, physical early arcs. Not that I don't appreciate the digital ones, but I'm just a holder when it comes to books, Anyway.
Right. It's something about physical copy. And I don't know if people...
I know.
I don't know if people will really love the physical copy of this because it's so small. But
I don't care. So am I. I have plenty of small books. I just read Kat's 100-page book today, the Still Waters book.
Oh, yeah, the one that just came out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I finished it in one sitting. This took me a couple of sittings, but it's strictly because of the content, which is going to kind of lead into something else I wanted to ask you about, especially because this is coming from a personal reality. Did you have trouble writing any of this? Like, were there times where you had to like, oh, I need a break, or like where you had to like go back to it a little bit later or anything like that?
No, actually, no, because it just like...
It was therapy.
Yeah, it really, when I wasn't writing it, and, I normally just write on the weekends, it was this buildup throughout the week of like, just thinking about it and kind of going like, oh, God, I got to get back and write. And then when I would write about it, it would kind of release that a bit. And it's been really interesting as of like, I've had quite a few ARC readers. I normally go like, who wants to be an ARC reader, and get like 4 people who were like, yeah, I guess so. But this time there's been a lot of people who volunteered for it, and it's been kind of an emotional roller coaster with them, because like, they're like, wow, I super relate to this. And on the author side, it's like, I'm glad that you can connect with the story, but on the human side, I never want anyone to relate to this. And so there's been a few people who've been like, this is, unfortunately, this is exactly what I kind of went through, how I felt in similar situations.
Yeah.
And that part's an emotional hit for me, because, I'm like,
I think it can go in so many directions for people who have had personal experiences, people who may have had that happen to them where they were the one struggling with it, or people who knew somebody, lost somebody. I think there's a lot of avenues, but I think one of the other things that it kind of was and this is not a tooting of my own horn, because I have a lot of trauma because of the addiction that's in my family. Like a lot of stuff that even in as someone who's about to be 36, like I still like don't know how to deal with it. Like it's overwhelming sometimes. And so, but one of the things that I got to there's a certain part in the book, really close to the end, the last like 2 chapters or so, where I was reminded of not going down that path, where I was reminded of like, I saw all of that and I didn't let it get to me. I didn't
Right.
go down that path. And you know, it was something that like, honestly, it scared me to the point where like, not that I think this is how this works. It's going to sound over the top, but this was
Right.
my mindset. I was so scared because addiction is genetic. And I have it on both sides of my family. My father is not an addict, but all of his other children are from a different parent. And my biological mother was. And so I was always so scared of it that like I wouldn't even smoke weed when I was like in high school because I was like, no, it'll end up being crack. I can't do it. Like I was
Right.
so scared of everything because I saw what it did to everybody else. And that's not always how it goes. It doesn't always go that way. And you know, and I've been very fortunate. I've never had to struggle with that. I don't, you know, but I have lost people to it. I've lost high school friends, people I genuinely loved and cared about have died from overdosing or drinking too much. And I know a lot of people who died because they were drinking and they drove, you know, all of those kinds of things. And so it was cathartic for me as a reader because as much as I related to it, I didn't. And it was a reminder that I was able to see all of these things and then come out a little bit above it. And it's kind of that hopeful feeling you get as you get towards the end of this very sad story where you're like, there really can be a better day. There really can be you know, a better life, a better world. And it's just a reminder of how hard it is for people who aren't so lucky.
Oh man, I'm so happy that, you know, that gave you that, you know, and it's so interesting hearing from people. Like, doesn't happen often because not many people read my books, but
stop it. More people read your books than read my books. You just be happy. Okay.
I'll take what I can get, but you know, not a crazy amount of people like tell me, you know, this part of your book, you know, meant this to me. And that's what a lot of ARC readers have been saying about this. And the interesting part, because I never want to say like, oh, this is what it is. You know, it is what it is to you. It is, you know,
I get what you're saying.
Whoever reads it. You know, and I'd never taint that. But it was interesting for me because I wrote the ending and it's not very happy. It's not a happy ending for me. But there's a good chunk of the people who have read it and left reviews on it are like, I wasn't expecting a happy ending, but I got one. And I'm like, that is interesting. I could see how they would see that as a happy ending.
Because I think it's we feel relief for our main character.
Right.
But I think you sort of take that away again when we are reminded that for every one person that comes out of this, there's how many more that are affected by it.
Right.
And that is not a happy ending. But for me, anybody, fictional or not, that can come out of it, that's a victory, that's a win, right? And so I think that's probably where those people are coming from is it felt really good. Right. And then it was like, well, you know, like.
And compared to the rest of the book, it is the Rocky montage compared to the rest of the book in terms of lifting your spirit. So
you're not wrong. No, you're not wrong.
And this is my first foray into grief horror, but I honestly don't know if I'll go back into it because I feel like if I want to, one, I need to have a loss that happens to make me want to write something like that again, or two, I have to put myself in that mindset, and that's just not good for me mentally. So I don't know if I'll be back.
That's fair. Well, I think for what it's worth, it being the first, you know, kind of venture into that, I think it was handled really well.
Thank you.
And I'm saying that as because one of the characters is Haley's son. That's one of the characters that we get close to. You know, my biological mother somehow is still alive. And so I didn't have to experience that, but there was always that fear of having to see that as an adult or being like being a part of it and not. So, you know, I think that the things that he feels and the kind of the I guess like the thought processes that he has, you know, as an adult dealing with a mother who is an addict like that, I thought were very they really hit a lot of it, because even though my biological mother is still alive, I still have a great amount of grief for a relationship that I never got to have, you know. And so because children should be given the world in love, in junk food and toys, whatever they want, they should have. Like, that's just how I feel. And so when there are children who aren't, particularly when they come from addicts, it's just, they always feel grief from that. It never goes away. You never stop grieving. You may heal from it. You may process it. You may have a happy, successful life. You absolutely can do that after coming up that way. But that grief of never understanding why you weren't enough, never understanding why they were the way they were, or even if you grow to understand it, there's just always that feeling of loss, you know? And I think that was written beautifully because it was so easy to connect to, and it felt very realistic to me.
Dang. I mean, I can't believe I did it that well. Thank you. I really, truly, I never.
Radar, you have got to start giving yourself more credit, man.
I don't ever feel like I set out to do anything that ground shattering, but I mean, yeah, that's what makes it great. Because I mean, obviously you connected with it, other people connected with it. And I really hope that ultimately, if there's one thing to get out of it, that, you know, at least a couple dozen people or something will understand that you were not alone. You didn't go through this trauma alone. There's a lot of us out there, and it's tough to deal with, but you can come out the other side. Hopefully, you know, it's doable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not everyone makes it out, and that just sucks. But you know, a lot of people can. And so that's my hope with the book.
Yeah. No, I think it does it well. So the official release date for this is what?
July 23rd. So So I don't know when this will drop, but July 23rd is when the book is releasing. So
I'll make it drop on the 23rd. It can come out the day of the book. Well,
yeah. Oh, and real fast, I guess, before we wrap up, I do want to mention that the first 3 months that this book is out, all the royalties that would normally have received, I'm donating to a non-for-profit. It's called the DCCCA. Yeah, 3 C's. The DCCCA, and it's a Kansas-based non-for-profit, and they have clinics in the Kansas City and the Wichita area, and they help people, you know, get treatment for their substance abuse and help get them on the road to recovery. And I think they do a lot of other stuff too. They try to keep families together. If that doesn't work out, they help in the adoption process to get those kids that they interact with to homes that are a good fit for them. And they have on-service daycare is the cool part for me, because like single mothers don't have to be separated from their kids while they're going through this tough process of trying to get through recovery. And I think that's incredible. So I'm so happy that I get to, you know, donate to them, and that, you know, and that hopefully
that's a great cause. I love that.
So it's a win-win. Hopefully people pick up the book. Yay. And also, you know, you get to indirectly help
this organization. Yeah. And the link to where to get the book, of course, will be in the description. So, I mean, I really loved this. It's so different from a year, right? Like, it's so different. And, like I almost forgot I was reading Radar. Like, it just was so, because content Radar is silly, right?
Right. You know.
And so, and that's how I know you. So it was really cool as a friend, as somebody that you do content with and who has read your other stuff, because I've read your sci-fi stuff too. And to see something like this, I was really impressed. Like, and I just want you to know, I mean that genuinely. I'm not just saying that because we're on camera. Like, if I hated it, I just would let you do all the talking. But no, this was a journey. And I think it's going to be very well received because, you know, people need stories like this. One of my favorite things about horror is the way that it can feel so human, so real, and can make you realize that, like, yeah, this fucking sucks, but I'm not the only one, and I don't have to let it win. And I think those are all themes that come through really, really well in this book. So I'm excited for you.
Oh, you're making me blush.
Not you, not silly radar. So, well, yeah, cool. Yeah, because the other thing I was going to ask you is, what do you want people to get out of it? But you sort of already answered that.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Well, thank you for sending me my sweet note and my little book.
Of course. You know, thank you for the support. I really do appreciate it.
I was in shambles, radar. I was like full-fledged crying.
Oh man. Oops.
It meant so much. It means so much to me. So and like I said, it'll go back in here now that I don't need it as a prop while I'm talking. And it'll go in a special place on my shelf. But anyway, so thank you for sending it. It meant a lot to me.
Of course. Anytime, friend.
Yeah. So please go order this book. Good cause, really great story. Literally, like you said, a win-win. The links to where you can find Radar's content and other stuff as well will be in the description for this episode. And yeah, I guess, but this comes out, and I know I'm early technically because we're recording ahead of time, but happy release day.
Well, thank you. Woo!
Well, cool. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see people's reactions to this. I genuinely am. So,
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this author interview. Please go check out this book. Great writing, great cause. Literally, you have nothing to lose. And follow Radar if you're not already randomly not doing that for some weird reason. And have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you in the next one.